Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute you guys and we'll get going. All right, so my name is Leggett. I'm speaking to you guys about this project that I'm working toward called Inverting the Narrow Street. In speaking to you guys today, I'm going to be discussing some previous work that I've done kind of to build up to this moment. So this work is basically discussing how to imagine other dimensions of reality inside of our third dimension of reality. There is an amazing video that I really enjoy that's called The 10 Dimensions Expanded. It's on YouTube, and it talks about, in a very simple way, the theory of the 10 dimensions. So I wanted to show you guys just a short clip from it. In showing you this clip, I'm basically bringing in the idea of how can we imagine the fourth dimension while we're in the third dimension. In order to do that, we already understand the two-dimensional objects while we're in the third. And so I use this analogy in order to kind of grow the imagination. Just one moment.
Trying to view our three-dimensional world would only be able to perceive shapes in two-dimensional cross sections of the living friends, which starts
Sorry, you must.
Is how can we visualize planes of existence?
Claire, excuse us.
Actually, region landscapes being here in Paris and studying from landscape urban setting paintings done in Paris in art history. So you'll see this image, and I have dissected it into these triangular shapes. The lines that I'm working from are lines of perspective drawings, and so I'm interested in the psychology that we've created around formal perspective drawings. Show you guys where I've done recently for the last year. This is a full snapshot of looks like this. There are these raw stone canvases, and my interest in creating planes and speaking to a dimension coming toward you started from actually thinking about how to express the portrait in a sense that is outside of the figure of a face. So these works began about 5 years ago. I stepped away from them and I've recently revisited them. The structures that I built look like this. And I also wanted to bring in this picture of a structure because I wanted to talk later about the idea of how to protect your artwork, thinking about patents and copyright, and then how that opens up into open source. So I will touch on those topics at the end. So currently in this project, I am working with the idea of video imaging. You'll see on the sketch, I will basically be taking the triangular shapes that I gained from the patterns of the paintings in art history, and then I'll turn them into these prisms coming at you rather than creating space that goes back. And then with those prisms, I will 3D print them, and then I will do video mapping onto those to reinvent a flat space into a sculptural space, and also play with the illusion of that sculptural space. And so I am also currently going around and taking photos of my experience in Paris. Currently, also dissecting these photos myself. I have one example here for you guys. And so I'm interested again in these urban settings, then setting a format for so urban settings.
Hello.
So, final point out in on the horizon line that we orient our formal surroundings in. We orient that from formal 1 and 2 point perspective drawings and paintings. And we don't realize that these the formal aspects of drawing and paintings being done in 1 and 2 point perspective, that was actually accepted as not. So what I'm trying to do is stretch as much as I showed that original video, talking about us as three-dimensional objects passing through a second two-dimensional space. How can we imagine being three-dimensional objects passing through fourth-dimensional space? And so that's a work that I've been developing for the last several years, and going forward, some things that I'm looking at in order to create objects that I'm studying, to create these prisms outside of just urban settings. I'm also investigating so I'm also investigating right now the aspect of the original sundial being a stick in the ground. I'm interested in that because I'm actually playing with the idea of taking 2 sticks to create 1 shadow. I will show you guys. So these are some studies that I've done where I've taken 2 sticks to create 1 shadow. And how can you take, again, stretching the idea of reality. So that is the project that I've been working on. In studying the sundials, the original sundials, that will inform some of the, you'll see at the top of this drawing that in order to create 2 shadows from the 2 sticks being held together, I also am relying on different light sources as well. And so these patterns will also inform some of these prism pieces as far as studying the sundials as well. And so that is the project itself. And kind of the last point that I wanted to kind of bring in is talking about and opening it up to questions. talking about an artist in the current era, and the idea of, for me, protecting my artwork, protecting the images of it, protecting things that are copyright, and actually learning about the open source technology, having your material be open source and doing that intentionally, it's been a very kind of freeing discovery. I think my master's program, I've been concerned as a professional artist coming in, even with putting photos on Instagram, because I know that those photos get taken and get put somewhere else, and the identity of where that photo came from, who made that art object, gets lost. And so actually coming in and intentionally making your artwork or the patterns of your artwork intentionally open source is very interesting and something that I also want to be a part of this project. So in the past, I wanted to actually patent these stretchers. And because I was not able, it's very difficult, it's very expensive to hire a patent lawyer. And so I also considered copyrighting each pattern as if it was a dress pattern. So each triangular pattern that comes together to make these, I considered copyrighting them. And so what I'm doing, is basically with this project, I also want to take these pieces that I will make, whether that's through 3D modeling, whether that's through the continuation of the sewn pieces, and make those available resources so that other people can print and distribute and make them themselves as well. And so that's kind of the aspect of using technology that I'm bringing in as well. And so also for Skype conversation, I'm going to show some of the videos. This is going to be the video of, and I'm just going to, so that I know, this is going to be the video speaking about as, so what would, speaking about the second dimension and the 2-dimension. Thanks, guys, for being a part of this.
Your bottom would divide them into 2 pieces. And a flatlander trying to view our 3-dimensional world would only be able to perceive shapes in 2-dimensional cross-sections. A balloon, for instance, would start as a tiny dot, become a bubble circle which inexplicably grows to a certain size, then shrinks back to a dot before popping out of existence. And we 3-dimensional human beings would seem very strange indeed to a flatlander. Imagine the 3rd dimensions.
And so I was showing that video earlier again to speak to the aspect of, as in 3-dimension, we already have a perception of what the 2-dimensional space is. So how can we take the analogy of imagining what it would be like to be in 2 dimensions, knowing what 3 dimensions is, and then how can we imagine the 4th dimension? And so the other photos that I wanted to show so that you guys can see there in Colombia, thank you again for joining us, is, so these are the studies that I'm doing right now based on the original sundial for me, I'm changing it from 1 stick to 2 stick, and then based on how you arrange those as the light is falling on them, you can make it look like there are 2 sticks with 1 shadow, or you can make it look like there is 1 stick with 2 shadows. So there I'm actually holding 2 sticks, but I have oriented them so that it looks just like 1. And so this again plays with illusion. It also states that there are kind of other realities existing, other ways of looking at things, and yet we see reality as being very fixed. We see the idea of perspective lines that draw buildings as being the fixed and correct and rational way of creating space. And so my aim is to push beyond that. And so again, just to give you, again, it's the same 2 set of sticks. There are 2 sticks and 1 shadow. And there are 2 sticks. They're just turned, instead of like this, they're turned like this. And then the shadows are cast down. So in both examples, you get 3 lines. You're just seeing the same objects in a different way. So I know that I kind of explored all of that in an intuitive organization. And so I just wanted to open up to any questions. And yeah, basically the process of what I'm speaking about is the current project, what my work has been up to this point, as well as speaking a little bit to user and my need to intentionally bring in the open source of the end result of my project so that other people have access to create these things as well. Thank you guys so much, and I'll look forward to, we'll take a look at some of the questions.
Can you unmute us?
We have a question that says, can you mention some ways that you experienced multi-dimensions in your everyday life? That's a great question. And the way that I actually imagine multi-dimension in my life is to imagine it. And so I actually, when I'm walking down streets, I actually visualize, instead of the lines coming this way, I actually visualize the perspective lines as prisms coming at me, and that I am walking through those prisms. And so I think that also forcing myself to visualize space in that way, it brings pushes away from the idea of being a part of a void in urban settings, and kind of always being actually hugged and physically almost touched in that urban setting, by imagining it that way. just going to wait for a few more questions to come through. Yeah, so it's asking if I can imagine a way to incorporate this both in an artistic and scientific approach. So I obviously cannot claim to be a scientist. I have begun to have a high interest in quantum physics. I have a very tiny fragment of research that I've started on it. And so I have an interest in it because it's basically talking about the theories of two realities existing at the same time, as best as I can understand it. And so as far as the research going toward a science direction, that is also where I kind of see the art and science meeting, kind of in the latest cutting edge theories about the most tiniest bits of what our reality is made of. Got another question coming through. Hang tight, guys. Even though I can't interact with you guys, I hope it's been a beautiful day. Mark Fair. Very happy to be joining you all the way from Paris. So it's asking if I know any other artists working in the multidimensional concept. Concepts?
Yeah, do you know anyone else that works with like multi-dimensional?
Yeah, so this is going to be a strange answer to that. I actually try to not immerse myself too much with what artists are currently doing. And I do that intentionally because I think that staying too informed on what artists are currently doing can digress what you intuitively feel you need to make. And so you can basically stay very informed on what artists are doing and then say, oh man, I can't make that because it's already been made. Oh, I've seen it over there. I am definitely learning the value of still staying exposed to work, to other artists, to how they're successfully achieving compositions and taking their concepts into ideas. I do, yeah, so directly, I feel like it's very unique, kind of odd, but especially an artist of my generation to intentionally try to not stay constantly tuned in to every present artist. It is for an intentional reason though, because I really try to keep such a raw genuineness of what I'm doing, make sure that I'm interested in that before I then start exploring what other artists are doing in that realm. So, so I don't know any other artists that are working in this. Yeah. Got another question coming through, guys. Yeah. So it's asking what art medium would you like most to express this. Yes? Yeah. So that is a really great question. I'm very intuitively inclined toward working with sewing and working with fabrics. The next step that I want to take is to work actually with sewing. Very beautiful watercolor paper, actually, to create these prisms that will be mounted on the wall, similar to this image here, which is this image. So that's where my intuition wants to take me. I feel like there is a real reason for taking this into the 3D printing realm, taking it into the area of using plastics to speak about urban spaces. So these prisms on the wall that are shown on this drawing is those I would really like to, well, I was saying, start from expanding past the fabric that I've been working in and use paper and sewing paper to create them. And then the aspect of using the plastics has it as kind of a double-edged sword, because using the plastic is also speaking to petroleum that is in cities, in urban settings, and kind of speaking about the output of that waste. At the same time, I'm using the plastic, so I'm contributing to that. So again, it has that double-edged sword. So right now I'm kind of torn between and deciding on what the best material is. Sometimes, as an artist, it is better to proceed with what is intuitive, and then you're able to look back and understand the work. And sometimes it is better to use the material that's right for the concept. So dancing between that line, perhaps some could be made with the sewn paper, and some could be made with the 3D printing. And so currently those are the two materials that I will explore with the work. So this question is, what lies in other dimensions? Is that relevant within this concept? In a scientific realm? So what lies in other dimensions? What lies in other dimensions is the idea of being outside of our sense of time. And so that's why I'm also starting to explore these coding projects, which I will show you. So it's very, very minimal coding using a program called processing. And so I'm still exploring the idea of these three lines. When they're put in motion, they start to refer to time and kind of have a reference to the clock. And so what lies outside of into other dimensions is basically pushing past our conceived notions of time. And I feel like a lot of this, I'm going to show this also here for our documentation. So this is the video that I'm showing of using processing. And so I feel like a lot of this imagining that happens of these other realities, these other dimensions rather, that the dimensions are actually there, and it's kind of like the fear of learning another language. there's a lot of, as an adult, you already have a concept about how to express yourself. And so you lose the childlike inhibition to just accept words fumbling together, to as adults we just create our own dictionary of what reality is, if you will. And so if we can expand that dictionary, I think that imagining is the first step to realizing that these dimensions are actually happening. But yes, so I think time plays a big element. So this question is asking, can you express more about how time is in relation to the dimensions? Yeah, so directly in the, just to make that one jump directly in the fourth dimension, as the theory goes, is as much as the video of the two-dimensional person, what would they see of a three-dimensional person moving through a two-dimensional plane? So as much as there is that visual sense for the fourth dimension, basically you have almost like a three-dimensional sense of time, always existing from the start to end of your lifetime. And I can pull up, because the clip is so very much helps this analogy. So, as
most tricky aspects of there being one dimension stacked on another is that down here in the dimensions below, we can be unaware of our motion in the dimensions above. Here's a simple example. If we make a movie strip, take a long strip of paper, add one to a straight line. The fourth dimension, time, feels like a straight line to us, moving to the past and the future. But that straight line in the fourth dimension is, like the movie strip, actually twisting and turning in the dimension above. So moving undulating snake that is us will feel like it is moving in a straight line in the fourth dimension.
yeah, so basically, how can there's that analogy of all points of our life being accessible at the same time, rather than feeling time in a linear sense. So, before I get too much on the soapbox, I want to make sure that answered that question. Dimensions. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining. Been really exciting to be a part of the fair there in Columbia. It's been an amazing opportunity, and I just want to say thank you from everyone at the Paris College of Art and the Transdisciplinary Media program for your time and attention, all your questions. It's it's been great. You guys have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of the fair, and stay in touch.